This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, microeconomics students, Professor George here. I am going to make you a very short video tutorial on how to draw monopolist cost curves. I'm going to try to do these more often if they help. So let me know if they help. So we went from perfect competition, which is way far on one extreme, where you have infinite sellers, no barriers to entry, homogeneous price, homogeneous product, and their price takers. Way on the other end of the spectrum is a monopolist. And a monopolist is kind of the opposite. Instead of lots of sellers, we have one seller. Instead of no barriers to entry, it's pretty much blocked, right? Perfect competition, the price takers. The monopolist is the price maker. They're the only one. The product is unique. So they're kind of opposites. Now let's draw the cost curves. Let me show you a document that I made first. I'll post it too. It's just a little document. So we're going to assume here we go. This is what you need to draw monopolist cost curves. The most important thing is about how to find the optimal Q and P. We did that for perfect competition. We learned in perfect competition that they produce the quantity is where marginal cost equals marginal revenue. It's the same for the monopolist. You're going to find their Q by marginal revenue equals marginal cost. The price will be different though. So for the first bit of this chapter, we're going to assume that monopolists are unable to price discriminate. And what that means is they have to charge everybody the same price. So they have a downward sloping demand curve. And as they go down the demand curve, it's not like some people pay a high price and some people pay a low price. Everybody pays the same price. Everybody gets the same price. So that's unable to price discriminate. This means that everyone is charged the same price. Later in the chapter, we're going to have price discrimination. The demand curve is downward sloping. The marginal revenue curve is no longer the same as the demand curve. It's going to, because each time that you sell something, your marginal revenue is going to be less and less and less and less and less. So the basic, I'll show you how to draw it. It's basically you bisect the space under the demand curve. The marginal cost curve is the same kind of distinctive Nike swoosh, and the average cost curve is similar. As any cost curve, it's going to be downward and then back upward sloping. Okay, so let's draw some graphs. Oops, that's my last student I had in here. Okay, so when we draw our graphs, always the same start. If you have a Windows program, do yourself a favor and always use this Paint app. I'm so happy I found that it's so much easier than doing it in Word or Excel. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put, price, and down here we're going to put quantity. First thing we're going to draw. A lot of times it's good to get the order that you draw them in, just to help yourself. So the first thing you're going to draw is you're going to draw, let's make it blue. We're going to draw the demand curve, or purple. So this is the demand curve. This is the demand curve. Now, the marginal revenue curve, I won't go through the whole exactly why it's shaped this way. Just trust me. The next curve we're going to draw is we're going to draw the, we're going to draw the marginal revenue curve. The marginal revenue curve, the best way to think of it is kind of like you're bisecting this space. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's something like you're bisecting this space. Something like that, and that would be perfect. So this is going to be your marginal revenue curve. Now, the next thing that we're going to draw is we're going to draw our distinctive Nike swoosh. I'm going to use a paintbrush. And from my Nike swoosh, I think I'll pick, what should we do? Let's do green. Now, I'm not going to do this perfectly, but perfect schmurfect, right? So I'm going to draw my distinctive Nike swoosh. This is going to be my, I made it kind of big, didn't I? This is going to be my marginal cost curve. Now, the only thing that we have left to draw is going to be our average total cost. So just as in the last section, we have like when they're making a profit, when they're making a loss. So if you start with this graph, pretty much just exactly this graph, where you put your average total cost curve will determine if you're going to be making a profit or a loss. We don't have the whole shutdown thing. We're just looking at what's their profit and what's their loss. So I'll draw this one somewhere and we'll figure out which one I drew. So your average total cost curve is going to look something like that. You know, don't quote me on that, but something like that. Maybe it should have been a little bit differently shaped, but basically that's it. So I might have drawn that in a really, okay. So now we got to figure out the biggest question always facing us is what Q does the profit maximizing? They also talk about this as loss, minimizing monopolist. Well, guess which one they choose? Where marginal revenue equals marginal cost, always. So this is where it's going to be a little bit different. So pay attention. So right here, this Q right here, that's going to be our Q. That's going to be our profit maximizing Q, where marginal revenue equals marginal cost. Now, what's different is the price that we're going to charge. In competition, perfect competition, we just saw that and then we went straight over here to find the price. We're not going to do that. So for a monopolist, what determines the price is what the market will bear. Another way to say that is what the demand reveals. So given the demand, so first you start with the Q, and then you find the P. And the way you find the P in this situation, the way you discover, I like saying discover, that's the way a lot of economists would say this. How they discover their price is they then take this Q, and you're going to draw it up until you hit the demand curve. So when you hit the demand curve, it just so happened I drew it that the average total cost curve is right there, which I didn't mean to do, I just did. So right there, where the Q hits the demand curve, that's going to be where the price is. Like I said, I didn't plan on doing it there. This is going to be your price. Now, we always find profit the same way. We always find profit the same way. The way that we find profit is we say profit, the way that we're going to find it, it's all about the relationship between P and ATC, right? If the price is greater than the average total cost, we're going to have a profit. I just so happen to draw in this example that price is equal. Oopsie. The example I made here is that price is equal to average total cost. That's no profit. I mean, that's normal profits. And then if price is less than average total cost, it's going to be a loss. So the way that I drew it there's no profit, there's no loss. Let me show you one of your homework problems that has a better, different graph to help you understand the other situations. So here's a picture from your Cengage homework. And if it asked you the question, what Q will they produce? You're always going to do the same thing. You're going to find where marginal revenue, they didn't even label this bad people. Oh, the other did. There's a label. Where marginal cost and marginal revenue cross, right there, that, you never label stuff out here in space. That was one of the things you guys got wrong in the last quiz. You always label it down here. So they're going to produce 1,000 cans of beer. What price are they going to charge? Well, I'm going to take this Q and I'm going to go straight up until I hit the demand curve. I'm going to hit the demand curve, and you can see that at the demand curve, I'm going to have a P of 2. So I'm going to have a quantity of 1,000 and a price of 2. So what is going to be my profit or my loss? Let me change my color. Maybe that will help. Change my color. Hold on. I'm sorry. Change my color. What color should I make it? I like a pink today. So at the same Q, you're going to bounce up here until you hit the average total cost curve. And then I'm going to draw all over. I did this problem earlier today. I think that this crosses here at like 275 or something. So how do you find the profit or the loss? Well, we know it's the difference between the price and the average total cost given a particular Q. So the Q is determined at 1. At a Q of 1, the price is going to be $2. At a Q of 1, the average cost is going to be $2.75. So that if the P is smaller than the ATC, we know, right? If I'm charging you $2 for it, but it cost me $2.75, I know that this whole area is going to be my loss. So I take this baby, I don't have this, it's just a Word document, and I would draw it over there and I would shade that in. All right, so just to review real quick, when you draw a monopolist cost curves, you have a downward sloping demand curve. You have a marginal revenue curve that's also downward sloping, and it kind of bisects this difference underneath the demand curve. You have your classic Nike swoosh marginal cost curve. You have kind of a typical average cost curve. It changes. That's what changes determine your profit or your loss. You determine your quantity first by finding where marginal cost equals marginal revenue, but that is not where the price is. You use the demand curve at that Q to find your price. Once you found your price, you're going to say at that Q, what's my average total cost? If your average total cost is more than your price, so if the cost is $3 and you're charging people $2, you're making a loss. If your average total cost is lower than your price, which means it costs you $2 to make it and you're charging $3, then you're making a profit. It's not hard to draw these graphs. You just got to remember which one for which. Let me know if this is helpful.